Yeah.
Welcome back, fans, to Royally Quacked. We're doing something a little different today. It's going to be a Kings only podcast. So this is Player Grades Royal Edition, and I have some guests with me. I have a good friend and longtime Kings fan, Kevin Snyder. Welcome, Kevin. Anything you would like to tell our fans before we get going?
Yeah, we're going to finally beat those stinking Edmonton Oilers next year. I've had enough of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We also have Dylan from the LA Kings channel on Instagram. Dylan, would you like to say something?
Hey, thank you just for having me on the show. I've never been on a podcast before, so this is really cool. Thank you.
It's fun. It was nerve-wracking my first day, I got to tell you. But and last but not least, we have Eddie Garcia from Locked On Kings. Now, Eddie is a pioneer of hockey podcasting. How many years has it been? 18 or 19, Eddie?
19 going on 20. Yeah.
Awesome. And Eddie's he's a podcast king because it's like 3 different podcasts. Am I correct?
At the moment, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You have the podcast and then the NHL game night, right?
Correct.
And then an LA Kings. So fans, don't forget to go and listen to Eddie, and obviously go on Instagram and check out the LA Kings channel.
Thank you.
We're gonna do player grades. So, I know everybody got the notes. I know Kevin, you have your own notes, but I see everybody else put their notes in.
You didn't allow me to say something extra, which I'm a little disappointed
Eddie,
at.
by all means.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the show is much better without that other guy that's here that likes that other team.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Feels a lot nicer. That's all.
Who is that guy, anyways?
I don't know.
Some quack.
I think he might be listening though right now. So,
well, no doubt he's listening. So, why don't we get started? The first player we're going to talk about is Alex Laferriere. Kevin, you want to start us off with your grade?
Yeah, I got a B plus. Gave us 77 games, plus 22, plus minus, 7th in points. Very steady. I'm going to give him B plus.
Okay. How about you, Dylan?
I gave him a B because the way I was basing my grading was, for me to deserve an A, you had to maintain elite play and also be able to how should I say this, exceed expectations. And he did exceed expectations for a lot of us this year, because at the start of the year he started off really hot. He scored, what was it, maybe 10 goals in the first, I forgot how many games, and then he finished with how many points did he finish with? It was
42.
42.
Yep.
Yeah, and I thought Laferriere was really good. I just don't think he was quite like the A level, so I'll put him at a B, maybe a B plus, but for now I'd put him at a B.
And I also had him at a B, just because his goal scoring kind of went down. But one thing I did really love about Laferriere is that he was a complete player. He played 200-foot ice, and I think Stanley Cups are won not by your superstars, but by your role players. And I think he's going to be a role player for him. So, and Eddie, our fans, obviously, Eddie, why don't you say what I know? I see what you put in. Why did you give him that grade?
Yeah, I gave him a B as well. Look, all of his numbers went up from his rookie season, which we were all surprised that he was even on the team probably last season.
Yes.
But goals, assists, points all went up. His plus minus went dramatically up. just improved across the board and started great. Obviously, got a lot harder for him as the season went along. But I like that his game overall didn't change. He still was physical. He still went hard to the net. I'm sure there was a lot of frustration in the way it started and the way it kind of ended up. But I think he learned a lot this year that he can take going forward. And I just think he's going to take another step forward next year. I don't know if it'll be a dramatic step, but I think he can improve on his numbers, probably get a little more consistent. And if he does that, he's a solid middle six forward for the Kings going forward. So I give him a B.
I totally agree with that. Let's go on to Adrian Kempe. Is that anybody want to go first on Adrian Kempe?
Well, I'll be surprised if he doesn't get A from pretty much everybody. I'll go first, I guess. I gave him an A. Just, another great season from him. Leading the team, obviously, in points. Has turned into, I think, the most complete player on the Kings. If you want to talk about MVP this season, I think he's in the discussion. Consistent 30 goal scorer, 70-point guy. And I think on another team, he would be putting up better numbers. If he was in a different market, I think he would be probably a bigger star than he is. Not that LA isn't a big market, but it's not a big hockey market. There's nothing not to like about Adrian Kempe. I love that he's a very, very responsible defensive player as well, and I like he's got a little swagger to him, which I think the Kings need. So I've got an A for Adrian Kempe.
I'll go second because I totally agreed with everything you said, Eddie. Obviously, I think it would be probably between him and Darcy for MVP of the Kings, and he is a complete player. He was on the penalty kill. He was on the power play. He was doing everything. And I guess if he would have been a game person, he was close, but not quite. Maybe I'd have given him an A+. But Dylan, what do you have for Adrian and why?
So originally I had him at a B+, just because my guideline of A is really exceeding expectations. But then I really thought about it, and I was like, it's Adrian Kempe. He's our best forward. In my opinion, he was the second best player on the team this year after Kemper. And without him, imagine how the last 3 series or the last 4 series with the Oilers would go, right? Because he's been our most consistent playoff performer for the last how many years. And yeah, I think like what Eddie said, if he was on another system, because the King system doesn't really allow for crazy point totals for a lot of players, and the fact that he still put up 73 points and 35 goals this year is pretty crazy. So yeah,
Was great in the playoffs too. I didn't mention.
Yeah.
Well, he was a star in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because Kempe is just one of those guys who will, he feels like they always find a way in the playoffs. And
yeah, that's true. And Kevin, what grade do you have for Adrian Kempe?
Pretty much a sounding board for a lot of what you guys are saying. He came up big in the playoffs, and that was the point I was going to make. And Eddie's on top of his game. He knows everything, even the stuff he didn't get out the first time. But absolutely came up big in the playoff. He was our biggest factor as far as the other team worrying about is he got lightning in a bottle. He was a plus 22. I like the plus minus. That means a lot to me. He's a plus 22 on the season, and he's an A+ for me. And just quickly on the way I grade people, anybody that's a professional on the team's getting a C. Nobody I'm going to give worse than a C. They work their butt off. They're in the pros. Great. But there's some guys like Kempe, superstar, A+. Maybe we get a new GM now. We're going to get a different system. We're going to put a little bit more balance between the elite defense and being able to overcome a team like Edmonton that has the superstars where we get behind a little bit. And, that's kind of what I'm hoping going forward. But A+, no question.
Well, our fans that went onto our Instagram account and voted, they agreed that Adrian Kempe was an A. Now we're going to go to a little bit more controversial of a player who had, I think, probably a terrible first half and a great second half, Kevin Fiala. I have him at a B minus. I have him like a C minus at best for the first half and a A for the second half. So I grounded that up to a B minus. Kevin, what do you think about Kevin Fiala?
I give him an A. I look at the body of work. I look at the end of the season, and I consider playoffs as well. He tied for the team lead in goals scored for the season. Played 81 games. You get every week. You show up every day and you grind for me. You're going to have ups and downs, but he's 7th in the team in points scored. Suits up for 81 games. Ties for the lead in goals scored. A plus. I'm sorry. I know he had a tough start, but
Yeah,
I'm going to grade you on your body of work. That's how I do it.
Everybody gets their opinion, Kevin. So, you hold strong to it. What about you, Eddie, on Kevin?
I gave him a B. I honestly, I did not realize, I was just looking at his stats, that he had a career high in goals this year. I did not know that. I actually thought he had scored more than 35 in his career at some point, but that was not the case. So obviously that speaks pretty well. Yeah, he didn't start great, but even when he was bad, he wasn't terrible. I mean, he was still, when he was doing his thing earlier in the year, he would do some good things and he would do some bad things to kind of cancel it out. The plus minus was pretty bad. He did improve on it later in the year, finished a -7. The assists were certainly down. But overall, I think he gave the Kings what they're looking for, and that is somebody who can finish, somebody who can obviously score on the power play, which was an issue obviously all season long, but he had 14 power play goals, which led the team. He had a pretty good playoff, and I think the guy we saw at the end of the year and in the playoffs hopefully will be the guy we see going forward. But I gave him a B. And I didn't, by the way, I kept it pretty basic. I didn't do pluses or minuses, just me. So everybody gets just a good old B, A, whatever. So I gave Kevin a B.
Perfect. And Dylan?
I gave Fiala a B plus. So as you guys said, at the start of the year, he was, by his standards, pretty bad. And, the issue of the penalties came back where he took, I don't even know how many penalty minutes. And I know the plus minus isn't good. I'm not really one to look at plus minus, but, it is something to look at. But I think a B plus is about right for him because he didn't crazily exceed expectations, but in the goal scoring department, I think he did because I didn't think he was going to score 35 this year. And with the assists being down, in my opinion, I could kind of contribute that to some of his line mates not finishing his chances because when I watched the games a lot of times this year, I thought, great pass by Fiala and just no finish. And I also think it's the fact that he changed line mates so many times throughout the year because at one point he was playing with Deneau and Moore, then he got changed with, sometimes he would play with Kempe and Kopitar, then at one point it was what was it, like Laferriere and Byfield, and then it was Byfield and Fogel. So yeah,
well, and the fans, guys, just not to interrupt you, sorry, Dylan.
It's okay.
The fans gave Fiala an A.
Smart fans.
So and there's nothing wrong with that. I think Fiala, once he started playing with Byfield seemed to be, what were they calling him? The Fiala whisperer. So hopefully they're going to be set next year and continue what they did in the second half because both of them played much better when they started playing together. So now we're going to go to one of our additions that we got, which I thought was a great move by Rob Blake. Although I wasn't overly thrilled with the Warren Fogel signing, I actually loved it by the end of the year. I mean, he just played well. I gave him an A. He exceeded just about everything I thought of him. He was actually helped out saving Andrei Kopitar from being always on that penalty kill. Him and Byfield were a team for a lot of the season on the penalty kill. I just thought, and he led the team with plus minus, I think plus 36, I believe.
Yep.
I gave Fogel an A. Anybody want to jump in first?
I'll jump in about it. So for me, it was the opposite because when the Warren Fogel signing came out, I was a big fan of it because I loved Fogel in Edmonton. Like analytically, he was one of the best players on the team, and yeah, scored 24 goals this year, 46 points, and a lot of that, pretty much his whole season was he was held off the power play, which is even more impressive to me. And yeah, I thought, in my opinion, Fogel was probably the most consistent forward we had throughout the whole season. Because I can't really think of a little stretch where I was like, oh, Fogel's not really doing anything. But yeah, in my opinion, Fogel was our most consistent player all year on the forward side.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I think he was probably one of the most consistent guys. Eddie, you want to go, or Kevin?
Go for it, Eddie.
I think it's definitely an A. I also thought of the 4 players that we brought in from the outside. I thought he was the best player we brought in. I was hopeful that Darcy Kemper was going to have a good season. He obviously, we'll talk about him later, but Warren Fogel was the guy I was, if you're going to call it excited, I would say I was the most excited about with him. So, but he even delivered more than I thought he would. I mean, career high in goals, career high in points, career high in assists. Hard to have a better first season with a new team. 7 game-winning goals, which I think was tied for the team lead, or maybe it was the team lead, but he was either tied or had the team lead. I love his motor. Just gives you so much energy. Huge fan of Warren Fogel, so definitely gets an A.
Kevin?
I agree. Fogel, and again, my criteria is he answered the bell 82 times. Gary mentioned he's plus 36. That's another one of my metrics. He scored 24 goals, 15 points. Definitely an A. Great addition. Great part of our future. We get the centerman, then I'll have some other comments, but our wingers are really good.
Well, 81% of our fans gave Warren Fogel an A.
Yep.
Just so you guys know. And by the way, Eddie, Anze Kopitar tied him with 7 game-winning goals.
Yep.
I looked that up because I was curious about that, because that's not something I focused on. Next up is Trevor Moore. Anybody want to jump in on Trevor Moore to start with? If not,
I gave him a C. Obviously didn't start well. Came on late. Looked more like the Trevor Moore we're used to seeing. I don't know if there was an injury issue with him at some point. Maybe that's why he wasn't the player we're used to seeing. But later in the year, the cutting ability, the stopping and starting, being elusive and helping to keep cycles in the other team's zone. He looked much, much better. But the start was the start. I know the expectations were high for him because he had the 31 goals a year ago and the 57 points. So we were looking something a little bit closer to that. But hopefully, I'm hoping. I know there's some people that are looking for maybe the Kings to move away from Trevor Moore, maybe trade him. I hope they don't. I still think he's more of the player we saw a year ago than it was this year. I don't really like the idea of hitting eject on a guy because he has one not so great year or takes a step back. Let's see what he does next season before we make more of a determination on exactly who he is. But I'm hopeful that what we saw in the second half of the season will be more of what we see from him going forward. So I gave him a C.
Okay. Kevin?
I gave him a B, and I bumped him up to a B plus because I thought he had a good playoff effort. He only played 71 games. He was still top 10 in scoring. Plus 17, plus minus. That's another one of my things. So I gave him a B, bumped him up for other things. So B plus for me.
And how about you, Dylan?
I put a C plus for Trevor Moore, and I think part of that is I love Trevor Moore, but I didn't really expect him to bounce or to come back within the 30-goal season. That's just me. I didn't think he was gonna score 30 again. But 18, 22, 40, it's not bad. But I think just throughout the season, anytime I watched Moore, I was just thinking, at no point was there a stretch where I thought 2023, 2024 Moore was there. And yeah, I think C plus though. He wasn't bad, but just not at his best.
Well, I'm going to give our fans that voted the 64% voted a B for Trevor Moore. I agree with Eddie and Dylan. I gave him a C. And just like you said, Eddie, I'm wondering if there was just that little nagging injury that didn't keep you out of the lineup. It didn't let him play to his full abilities. And I would love to see him come back and be the guy we had last season, this next season, because I think these guys are growing. I mean, I think Byfield and Fiala, Laferriere, I mean, I think we can still get more from these guys. So like I said, I gave him a C. Our fans gave him a B. It's okay if we disagree. That's what opinions do. I mean, hearing some of you guys talk about some of these things makes me think a little bit more about how I graded him or graded that player. Oh, let's go on to Andrei Lee. Now, Andrei Lee started off the season playing regularly with the Kings and was there for a while. And I thought he did okay. I mean, he didn't have a good plus minus, but, he was out hitting people and playing. And I say the way I looked at grading is if you were an average NHL player, I'd give you a C. And I gave him a C because I just thought he was at average at best. Not to saying that he won't grow, because I think he will, and hopefully come back. Maybe we'll see him in the lineup again this next season. Somebody want to jump in with what their opinion is on Andrei Lee?
I don't think there's much to tell. Sorry, Eddie.
Yeah,
I can be real quick, man. I don't think there's much to tell. 3 points, 19 games, 3 points. C. That's it.
Go ahead, Eddie.
I gave him a B because, frankly, I didn't expect him to even be in the NHL at all this year. So the fact that he was able to be in the NHL and get some experience, get his first NHL goal, which was a great goal, was, I think, he'll look back on it as a positive. Something that he, can feel like, okay, I showed them, a little something that I can do, improve on it and move forward. So, like I said, I did not expect him to even get a sniff of the NHL. So the fact that he did and did okay, I think is certainly overall a positive for him. So I gave him a B.
I can see that. What about you, Dylan?
I just gave him a C. I think it's going to be a trend for me with a lot of these guys who had like really, short stints in the NHL. But yeah, I mean, Lee, fourth line whole time, wasn't overly impressed with much, wasn't disappointed by anything. Didn't really have any expectations for Andrei Lee in the NHL. But yeah, I think a C is right because, just right in the middle.
That goalie scored was pretty, Eddie.
Yeah,
it was.
I mean, I can still see it in my head. Hey, Cody, what was the overall grade for Andrei from our fans? They gave him a B. Eddie, you're just like, oh, wait. I take it back. That Andrei, it was a tie between a C and a D from our fans. And a few gave him an A. So, everybody has an opinion. We're going to go to Tanner Janot next. Dylan, you want to start?
Originally I gave him a C, but I think now I lean more towards C plus for Deneau. I mean, he did his job. He did his job. I'm pretty sure he led the team in hits.
He did.
Yeah. Fought every so often. He did his job, and I don't think anybody expected the Kings to get rookie year Janot back, where he scored 24, I think it was. But yeah, I think Janot was fine. I think he did his role well, and I'd probably just give him a C plus.
Okay. Well, I gave him a B minus because I think he was missing during the playoffs. I mean, he's a guy who puts a hurt on someone and makes them think twice to go to that corner to get that puck. And we missed him during our series with the Oilers. So I gave him a B minus.
I gave him a B. He did lead the team in hits. I think, as we're alluding to, maybe we didn't value him as much during the regular season when we see how he was missed in the postseason. I definitely think he could have helped bring that kind of edge and physical presence in the playoffs that was missing a little bit for us. So maybe that bumps him up a little bit in my eyes. So, as far as the points and the goals, he did, about as well as you're going to get. As was mentioned, the rookie season was that was an aberration. That he I don't know what he did that year, but that he's never going to be that guy again. Of course, he's never going to get those kind of minutes probably again as he did when he was in Nashville. But as far as the numbers were fine. He provided what the Kings were looking for. They wanted to get bigger and stronger and more physical in the offseason. They brought him in for that, and he did his job. So I give him a B.
Kevin?
I'm going to agree with a lot of that, but I'm going to give him a B+ because I think toughness, when you lead the team in toughness, that's a very important factor in the chemistry of your team. This is the toughest guy. He's out there banging, leads the team. He did score that game-winning goal against Dallas. That was pretty cool. So he does have that game-winning goal on his resume, as well as being the toughest guy on the team, which I like. I like a tough team. I want to see him, especially against Edmonton. I don't even like saying that team name, but B+ for me. I like it.
Okay. And the overall grade from our fans was a C. So I guess we disagreed with our fans a little bit. We all mostly had B's on there. Let's go to Andrei Kuzmenko. Kevin?
I'm going to give him Kuzmenko an A. He only played 66 games. He had 6 points in the playoffs, so he came up big in the playoffs, obviously. And you project he was top 10 in scoring on the team with only playing 66 games. Very talented, very good piece going forward. I give him an A.
Okay, how about you, Dylan?
I'm giving Kuzmenko A+. So when the trade first happened, I liked it, but I didn't think we were ever getting that rookie year Kuzmenko where he scored 39, and he didn't score. He wasn't scoring at that pace, but Kuzmenko exceeded all my expectations. He was the right-handed forward we really needed. He helped rejuvenate the power play. Finished at a +6 too, which was surprising, and Kuzmenko was everything Kings needed to be, especially for the playoff run. So
okay, how about you, Eddie? What'd you have for Andrei Kuzmenko?
I don't know how you couldn't give him an A. He came in and gave the Kings exactly what they were looking for, which I didn't think he was going to do. Frankly, I was not excited when they announced that move. I thought it was just kind of a wishful thinking type of a trade, but he helped the power play. He helped offensively. He was creative. He was dynamic. I've said it before. He's so I've never seen a guy who's so slow going from A to B, but so quick making cuts and stops and starts. But he's really a slow player when he's just going in a straight line. No, I really enjoyed him. He was fun to watch, and was there for the power play in the postseason as well. So, and he was better defensively. Everything I read and people were telling me, oh, this guy, he's terrible on defense. So
yes,
and he wasn't. He was, at least during the regular season, he was not terrible on defense. He was actually very good on defense. Unfortunately, he didn't. I guess it was his defense that kept him from getting some minutes otherwise in the postseason. But I did not see this awful defensive player that a lot of people said he was going to be. So I think he definitely gets an A.
Yeah. Well, I would, for his time with the Kings, I would agree. He gets an A. And I totally agree with you, Eddie. I heard all the bad things about him, that he wasn't even interested in playing defense, yet I saw him play defense. I did give him an overall grade for the season, a B+, because he wasn't with the Kings the whole time. But for his time with the Kings, I give him an A. I'm hoping that he doesn't ask for too much money and we resign him, because he is a UFA. And I think they're probably going to be talking with him. I'm sure they've got their order. I'm sure Gavrikov is going to be their first person they speak to. Our fans overwhelmingly 82% agreed to give Andrei Kuzmenko an A. Let's go to Jeff Malott. And I'll go first on this one. I gave, he did an okay job. I mean, he obviously was trying to replace Janot, and I thought he did a credible job. He really didn't get much into the scoring, so I ended up giving him a C, just because he didn't play that many games with the Kings, and he really didn't get a whole lot of playing time anyways. But when he did, he was okay, so I gave him a C. How about you, Eddie?
I gave him a B. Again, a lot with guys like him and Andre Lee. Never really had an expectation for them even being on the team this year. So the fact that he was able to get on the team, and against, circumstances, certainly wasn't necessarily he was promoted because of his outstanding play in the AHL or anything, but got his opportunity. I thought played relatively well. He played his role. Would have been nice to have seen him get that first NHL goal. Didn't he get it wiped off on an offside call? I think it was. Or maybe goalie interference. That was tough. That was that beautiful goal he had. I mean, one of the highlight reel goals of the season, where he made that great move close to the net and was like scoring as he fell down. That was tough. I would have loved to have seen him get that goal. That was a beautiful goal. But anyway, he contributed. Getting into playoff games, obviously there wasn't a lot there, but did the best he could. He's an AHL guy. Thrilled for him to be able to get an opportunity to say, I was an NHL player. I don't know that we're going to see much from him going forward, but did his job as best he could. Didn't make a lot of mistakes. There was never really any moment where you were like, oh my God, Malott just did that. He knew what his role was. He did it well. Certainly could understand why you would give him a C, but I think just, again, a guy who shouldn't probably be in the NHL, but when he was there, he didn't look like he was a liability at all. So that's why I gave him a B.
Okay, I can respect that. What do you say, Dylan?
I'd also give him a lot, like a C. Played even less games. Andre Lee, he played 12 games, but he did play all 6 playoff games. Not much to say about him a lot. Like what Eddie said, AHL guy. Had some entertaining moments for sure, but not really much to say about him a lot. He was a decent fourth liner for what he was able to provide, but yeah.
Okay, Kev?
I'm going to give him a C. Small sample size. Nothing stands out. Solid player, but C. That's it.
Okay. All right. And our fans totally agree with a C grade. 64%. Some people gave him an A. Not many. 10% A, 10% B, and 18% D. I think C is fair, and I could see Eddie would picking a B because he is an AHL guy and he really didn't hurt us. So we're gonna move on to Alex Turcotte. Dylan.
Yes, can I speak first on this? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're a big fan, right?
Yes, I love Turcotte. Ever since we drafted him, watching him in the World Juniors, I think he's a guy that Hiller should have gave way more minutes to throughout the season. Like before Kuzmenko came, I loved Turcotte on that first line with Kopi and Kempe. I thought Turcotte made a good impression with many Kings fans. Showed off his speed. He had made some great passes throughout the year, and he had 8 goals. That's more than I expected, honestly. And yeah, I love Turcotte this year, and he's better than Zegras. So yeah.
Okay, Kev.
I went with the C. I expect more from a centerman. I'd like to see more. I know he didn't get as many minutes as we'd like to see, but I expect a little bit more on the offensive side for a centerman. I think that's one of the things as I analyze the team. A lot of our centermen don't really give us enough scoring punch, and I think that's why we have this 4-year frustration running. So, C.
Okay, Eddie.
I gave him a B. Thrilled to see him get a full NHL season in, although it wasn't obviously the 82 games. But there were a lot of concerns if he was ever going to be healthy enough to be an NHL player. So getting any kind of contribution from him at this point to me is certainly a great thing to see. Played all around the lineup. There was times he was on the first line, on the fourth line, but I thought wherever they put him, he came with a lot of energy, even though he's a smaller player, not afraid to get his nose dirty. So I thought overall a very positive season that hopefully he can build on going forward. So a B for Alex Turcotte for me.
And I just listened to all three of you talk about him. I'm going to upgrade him to a B. I know he got hurt, which really kind of hurt us. But again, he didn't always get a lot of playing time to really show his stuff as much as some of the other players did. Our fans gave him an overall C, 72%, 27% were B, and there was no A's, B's, or F's. So, Alex Turcotte, somewhere in that BC range, obviously with all of our fans and us, we did a pretty good job of grading. So let's go down to Philip Deneau. Let's start off with you, Eddie.
I gave Phil a C. I thought he does a lot of things that may not necessarily show up on the score sheet. I recognize that. But I thought his regular season was just pretty average. He did pick it up in the playoffs, which was very nice to see. Actually had a great playoffs. But his regular season was pretty average. I don't, only 8 goals. I would expect to see him get, somewhere around 12 or 13. I mean, it's not a huge difference, I guess. The points are still okay, but I just thought he had a very average regular season, took it up to another level in the postseason, which was great to see. But overall, I give him a C.
Okay. I'll go next on that. I gave him a B, and there's a couple of reasons why. I don't think we ever signed him to be a goal scorer, although he did surprise us with a couple of 20-goal seasons, in his tenure with us. But he definitely was down on that part. But he was a key member of our penalty kill. He was a plus 20. Also, I gave him a B just because he does do a lot of that little stuff that nobody, casual fans won't see what Philip Deneau does. What about you, Dylan?
I gave Deneau a C plus. I think, yeah, like in my opinion, this was his worst year as a King so far. But he did step it up in the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get the Deneau back where he scored, what was it, like 27, 28 goals, or whatever it was. But yeah, and I think the signing was good originally just because we didn't really have that true second line center yet. But I think after this season, this was more of the transition of him becoming our third center, with Byfield becoming our 2C. And yeah, I just think Deneau's starting to slow down. And yeah, but he still gives us good defense. He'll win faceoffs. There's some offensive upside to be had, but yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about faceoffs. He's definitely second behind Kopitar as far as he's definitely on the plus side. So, Kev, what do you have for?
I like him. I gave him one of my top centerman grades. I gave him a B plus because, my criteria again. He answered the bell 80 times. I like that. He's the 6th in points. He's got a plus 20 plus minus, and his playoffs were, like Eddie said, a fantastic playoffs. So, coming up big in the big games, being consistent. You're not always going to be up, but I think his floor is really good. And I'm not, I'm hoping we're going to get some upgrades in the center ice attack this coming season. So I give B plus.
So we had Laura from Instagram Live. She was there when he made his first goal with us, and that was cool. I just wanted to share that. The overall grade of our fans was a B at 64%, 27% a C, and 9% gave him an A for Philip Deneau. So we'll move on now to Trevor Lewis. And Kev, what do you have for Trevor? Kevin? Well, Kevin's frozen right now, so maybe he's going to have to probably pop back in.
There he
how
is.
about you?
There he is.
I'm here.
He's back.
Okay. Trevor Lewis.
Trevor Lewis, I gave him a C. Got in 60 games, gave us 6 assists. C.
Trevor, I had him as a C also. He's just a guy that goes out and fills in when we need him to. He's been a great King, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. He's a serviceable NHL player. I gave him a C also. What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I gave him a C as well. Social media whipping boy for a lot of people. I don't know that he's deserving of that, but also, he's obviously just a fourth line guy, but the coaching staff seems to trust him probably maybe a little bit more than they should. I thought there were times he was in the lineup. I would like to have seen Akil Thomas get some more playing time over Trevor Lewis. I don't know why he wasn't in the rotation a little bit more. I'm not saying he would have done a lot more, but I don't. Well, I guess we should save that for Akil Thomas. But I gave Trevor Lewis a C. He says he still wants to keep playing. I'm curious to see if the Kings are going to bring him back or not.
And that's a big curiosity. What do you have on him, Dylan?
I gave Lewis a D.
Dylan's tough, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dylan's on it, man. That ain't gonna fly. He's gave him 1 A+, I think. That's it.
It's okay.
Lewis, I've ranted about it on my page. I think Lewis needs to hang him up. He wasn't he wasn't. I don't think he was F tier, because F tier you got to be pretty bad. But I just think Lewis is he's stealing playing time away from guys like Akil. A lot of times in the third period of games this year, Hiller would play Lewis over Turcotte in the third period, and I just didn't agree with that at all, especially when we were down in games where we needed offense. And yeah, Lewis just doesn't really provide much to the team outside of being a veteran presence. So yeah, but I love Lewis. I love what he's done for the team the last 12, 13 years. So yeah.
Okay. Cody, what did our fans say about Trevor? 54% C, 36% D, and 9% B. So we're all pretty much in the wavelength on Trevor. I don't think anybody gave him a B. We're going to move on to Samuel Helenius. Eddie.
I gave him a B. Again, the expectations go into this a lot for me, and he was a guy that I didn't think was going to get much time at all at the NHL level. So again, I thought valuable playing time for him, something that he can certainly build on and use going forward. Love his size, love his length. Certainly a guy who's not afraid to drop the gloves even if necessary. So he does bring some toughness. But again, I thought it was a really good learning experience for him. I don't know. We'll see how much, he's in the plans going forward. But again, getting in this season, 50 games in the NHL when he had never played in the NHL before, I thought did a pretty solid job. So I gave him a B.
Yeah, I heard what you said, Eddie, and I've been thinking, he might be the fourth line guy. I mean, he's pretty good on faceoffs already, even through his rookie year. He wasn't above 50%, but what young guy is? I'm going to give him a B also. Kev?
C. 7 assists, 50 games he appears in, gets 7 assists. I need numbers. I need a little bit more production. I like the potential, but I'm graded on what I see as production. That's a C.
And Dylan?
Same here. I would just give him a C. He like what Eddie said, he did play a lot more than I expected him to, and he does bring that size to the table. So yeah, I think he was a perfectly serviceable fourth liner this year. I'd give him a C.
Now this is the one. And Cody, what was for Helenius? 72% C, 27% B. So I guess we're right. The fans are kind of agreeing with us. Let's go with Quentin Byfield. Kevin, what do you have for Q?
Love him. I give him A+. He's got the grit we're looking for. He had 3 game-winning goals. I like that. He's a plus 16. Answered to Bell 81 times. Love him. A plus.
Dylan?
Originally gave him a B plus, but yeah, I think I will stay at a B plus. I thought down the stretch, Byfield was arguably our best forward. Really woke up in the second half like Fiala, and those two on the line together were great in the second half of the year. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else more you could want on a Byfield besides maybe more of a finishing touch, but yeah, and he plays great defense, so yeah, I would take him over that Diver Stutzla any day. So yeah.
Okay, I have two grades. I gave him a C, maybe a C plus for the first half of the season because he did play great defense. He was doing all the regular. He just wasn't scoring in the first part of the season, but in the second half of the season, I certainly hope we see a full season of that next year. I would have given him an A for the second half of the season, but overall, I gave him I'm going to give him a B. I had a B minus, but I'm going to give him a B. How about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I said I don't give the pluses and the minuses, but if I was going to give a plus, I probably would give it to Quentin. I gave him a B grade, but I think overall, really, really encouraged. As you mentioned, later in the season, looked like a guy that could really be a special NHL player. I've always loved his motor, the way he flies around the ice. To have a player like that at his size, with that wingspan, he could do some special things. But I think certainly a learning experience for him going from winger to center. But I thought he handled it really well and played pretty good defense. So overall, I thought it was a real positive, but looking for him to be hopefully a lot more consistent next year. But I gave him a very solid B.
Okay. And Cody, how about our fans? What was Byfield overwhelmingly 64% given an A, 36% B. So we were in the ballpark with him. And I know, sorry guys, I skipped somebody, and Eddie, you had brought up his name already, Akil Thomas. Why don't you talk about Akil Thomas for us?
Well, I don't want to overvalue him or anything. I just didn't understand why he wasn't more involved in the lineup. He sat for long stretches of games, and they even just certain back-to-back games maybe sit Trevor Lewis and let him get a chance to get some playing time. I'm not saying he would have made some sort of huge difference or anything, but why not keep your players involved? Why not? You don't know what he's going to do unless you play him. I just didn't. And it's not really on Akil, it's on Jim Hiller. There were a lot of times where I just thought, why is he just sitting him for long stretches? Not get him in a game every once in a while, give somebody else a rest. It's a fourth line player, just give him an opportunity to do something. So it really bugged me a lot this season. But overall, he didn't play too much. When he played, he was okay. I give him a C.
Okay. Kevin?
I have a C grade on him as well. We're pretty thin at the centerman position, so I'd like to see him get more reps. Grading on production, not potential, so C.
Dylan?
I'll give him a C too. I just feel like this organization never really truly believed in Akil. They never really gave him his full-time chance, and then 3 points in 25 games isn't anything to go crazy for. But like Eddie said, I just wish he played over Lewis for a lot of those games.
Yeah, totally understand what both of you guys have said. I didn't understand it either. I kept feeling like he was in the doghouse somehow. I mean, because it seemed like he didn't play for months at times. And they kept him up with the club. I guess they didn't want to take a chance of losing him by sending him down. But I mean, what good is it for him to only play the few games he did? And I'm going to give him a C. Now we get to talk about.
No, Gary, before we move on, can we just say real quick? So is it possible to look at the grades that our centerman got? Is that something Cody could put up? Because if you look at our wingers, the grades are A and B, and you look at our centermen and they're C and B at best. It's like we need to really upgrade that. to have some firepower when we get behind up in hostile territory. That's why I'd like to have seen him get another little chance. Like, we need some offensive spark. When we get behind in a game, we can't just, sit on the puck. We got to go after him, and we got to take some chances.
Yeah, Cody's going to have it up here in a second.
Just curious.
I can see your point, Kevin. We're going to be next talking about the number one center, at least until the playoffs will be next, which would be Andrei Kopitar. But Cody's trying to get that up for us for our centerman. Maybe we could be a little stronger in the middle, but I think Byfield was strong at the last half of the season. I thought he almost became, even in the playoffs, I think he was the number one minute for the forwards, all the forwards. So, but we'll move on to Anze while we're waiting for Kevin on that one. And I'll go first. I was not expecting Anze to have a great season because he is getting up there, but I gave him an A he's 37, 38 years old, and he's still one of the best faceoff guys in the NHL. And he's the guy they go to when they really need that faceoff win. And then he was second on the team in scoring?
Yep.
So to me, being that old and still performing, I was expecting a bigger drop off from Anze. I gave him an A. So there's your A for a centerman. Kevin, how about you?
I gave him an A as well.
Okay.
You have to. Second in points, second in playoff points too. So he doesn't just show up in the regular season; he shows up in the postseason, which you need. And he's given us the kind of production. He answers the bell 81 times. I like a guy that's going to take dress every time he has an opportunity and show up for the team. Who are you calling old? I would say, and Kopitar would say also. No, definitely. The production's there, the reliability's there, the step up in the playoffs is there, the dependability is there. That's an A.
Okay. Eddie?
I gave him a B. Solid season. Certainly, if you want to take into account, his age and all that, which you should. But I just, for me, an A grade is somebody who's had an outstanding season. I don't know that he had an outstanding season. I thought it was a very good season, solid season. Certainly started the year on fire. Couldn't maintain that throughout, which I don't think was a surprise. But overall, you know what you're going to get from Andrei Kopitar. He's always going to be very responsible defensively as well. Just very, very solid, very, very good. I don't know. I don't think it's an A for me, but I think it's a very solid B.
Okay. How about you, Dylan?
I give him a B too. Just another typical Kobe season. I just think once Kobe retires, who is really gonna replace him? As our top center. Obviously Byfield can be that guy, but there's just gonna be such a big hole missing with Kopitar and how consistent he's been throughout his whole career.
Well, he still has one more year in his contract.
Yeah. And not much to say. Kobe's just another good consistent season out of him. And going back to the center thing, I think with Kobe and Byfield, I think if Deneau is your third center, I think that's pretty good, in my opinion. So yeah.
Well, he was talking we should have A's down the middle. That's what I think Kevin was alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
Byfield 6 Kopitar 73% A, 27% B.
He was second on the team in scoring, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Second on the playoffs too, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Only one guy scored more than him.
Well, that was Kempe.
Exactly.
Now we're going to go to a guy who didn't really play a whole lot. We're going to start on our defenseman. Let's go with Andres England. And Kev?
See? That's it.
Oh, okay. Dylan?
I just give him a C minus. I don't know. England was one of those guys where he pissed me off at times. I can't lie. He did piss me off a lot of times, but and I don't think he truly used his size to advantage. But not the worst. C minus. He got got shipped to this throughout the season or during the season. So yeah, not much to say. C minus.
Okay, well, I had him at a C minus too. He only played 11 games with the Kings, and unfortunately, with all the other defensemen, he pretty much got moved out and then got moved. I gave him a C minus. I noticed, Eddie, it looks like you gave him an incomplete. Is that what?
I don't know. I just thought 11 games. He's not on the team anymore. I'm like, why are we even mentioning him, to be honest with you? So I don't give him a C. I'll give him a C, whatever.
That's okay. I understand why. He really didn't factor into much of the season. And then we're going to go with Kyle Burroughs, another pickup. Andres England, 46% D, 27% C, 18% B, 9% F. Boy, he got all over the gamut.
That was his family that gave him a B.
So what about Kyle Burroughs? I'll go first. I had Kyle with a C. I mean, he came in, he did what he was supposed to do, played 33 games. He was a +3. But he really wasn't a factor in most of the season. So, he was an NHL guy. I gave him a C. Dylan?
Yeah, same for England. I gave him a C minus. Not anything super notable. I think England, Burroughs, and like Muvarari are all in that C category. I do think Muvarari is better than both of them, but yeah, not much to say about Burroughs.
Eddie?
Yeah, depth defenseman, one of those guys who's borderline AHL, NHL player. He's your extra guy. He was fine. Nothing spectacular. Give him a C.
Kev? Are you there, Kev?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're
okay.
There you go.
I gave him a C+. I only gave him a plus because he showed me some grit in what I saw of him, and I like a little grittiness. So I gave him the plus, but C, yeah.
All right. What did our fans say, Cody? Overwhelming C for Kyle Burroughs. And then we're going to go to Jacob Muvarari. Eddie.
I C. He's very responsible defensively. Gives you absolutely nothing offensively, but does his role well. He's one of those guys who's one of your bottom pairing defensemen. I don't see him ever being anything more than that. But he's a guy who he does a lot of things. I know that he's very popular on the team. He's going to block shots. He's going to do everything you ask him, right? It's one of those guys that just whatever you tell him to do, he's going to do it. But his abilities are his abilities. He's a C player. So C.
Kev?
I agree, C. And if he becomes more a part of the process, and I see him more, then he's got a chance to show me a little bit more. But I think a C is appropriate.
I agree. I had him as a C also. He comes in, he does what he's supposed to do, what he's asked to do, just like Eddie said. What about you, Dylan? What do you think?
Yeah, C. I do like Muvarari more than, like I said, Burroughs, England. I do think Muvarari is better than both of them. But then at the end of the day, third pairing defenseman, nothing too crazy, but, he's decent for what he is. So, yeah.
Okay. What do our fans say about Muvarari, Cody? Overwhelming C again. Okay. We'll move on to Joel Edmondson. Kev, what do you think?
I want to hear what Eddie thinks on this one first. I want to defer to him first.
I gave him a very solid B. He was one of the players that we brought in the offseason I was not very excited about, but I thought he was forced into a situation with the injury to Drew Doughty to play on the second pairing a lot. He's probably more of a really good third pairing guy. I think having being a second pairing guy is a little bit of a stretch, although who knows if we may see that again going forward, depending on what happens with Gavrikov. But I thought he played well. I thought he was not as nasty though as I thought he was going to be. I thought he'd be a little bit more nasty than he was, to be honest with you. But I thought it was very solid. I thought he was asked to kind of give a little bit more than maybe what he signed up for initially, and I thought he did a pretty good job. So I thought I gave him a B.
Was that good enough, Kev? What do you think now?
Yeah, I give him a plus. You know, he was a plus 25, which I like, the plus minus. He suited up 73 times. So I think a solid C plus, just not quite to the B for me, not quite enough to deserve the B. I'm gonna give him a C plus.
And Dylan?
I'll give Edmondson a B plus because so originally when the signing happened, I hated it. I remember I made my profile picture on my page a meme talking about how bad the signing was because I thought we gave him too much money. But I mean, Edmondson exceeded all my expectations this year, especially with Drew going down. You know, we needed another defenseman badly, especially with Roy leaving. And yeah, I thought Edmondson did great for what most Kings fans expected out of him because he was pretty bad last year. And yeah, I think this year was a great bounce back for him. So B plus.
I agree. I thought he was much more than I ever expected from when we signed him. All the rhetoric. Just so you know, our fans, the lowest grade they gave him was a B. That was at 82%, and 18% gave Joel Edmondson an A. So I thought he was a great surprise. I mean, all the pickups I thought that Blake made, I was not impressed with it in the preseason and before the season started. But as the season went on, every one of them was better than I thought they would be. So anyways, now let's go on to Mikey Anderson. I'm going to go here on Mikey Anderson. I gave Mikey Anderson a B plus. He's solid, always solid, plays good defense. Had to pick it up when Drew went down, along with Gavrikov coming up and helping him, and they were a shutdown pair. So I gave Mikey Anderson a B. Dylan, what did you have for?
I gave Mikey an A minus. Yeah, like you said, Mikey's just solid. One of the arguably the best defensive defenseman on the team. I think he's second, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I don't know what more else you could ask out of Mikey this year. With Drew going down, him and Gavrikov had to step up the playing time. And I just think if you look at the Kings' blue line and their defense, like how screwed it would be without Mikey Anderson on it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Kev?
I give him a solid B. I mean, you can't. I don't think anything lower would be appropriate. He still scored 24 points, which I like. You got a defensive defenseman, like Dylan was saying, and then you get some production on the offensive side, and he's a plus 17, and he suited up 77 times. So very solid B. I'd like to see a little more grit. Would have bumped him up to a B plus, but that's just my own eyes. So.
Eddie?
Yeah, I got to agree with everybody else. Solid B. You know what you're going to get from Mike year in and year out. He's great defensively. Doesn't do a lot of flashy things that brings, that you notice with him, but does his job night in and night out, durable. He chipped in a little bit. I mean, 6 goals for him is pretty good because he's not going to give you much offensively at all. But overall, Mikey gave us exactly what we expect from him. Just solid defense night in and night out.
Okay, and a bank shot empty netter. That was I love that one. How about our fans, Cody? Well, they 64% B, 36% A. So he had good grades from our fans.
A lot of respect. Well deserved. Yeah. Well deserved.
Yeah. Not bad for a 4th round pick. So now we're going to go to Jordan Spence. And Dylan, what did you have for Jordan?
I gave Spence a C. I was hovering between C or C plus, but Spence is one of those guys where he's supposed to be, a more offensive defenseman, but obviously the points aren't completely there yet. Didn't get a ton of chances on power play 1. I would have liked to see that if Clark wasn't working out, but yeah, I mean, there were some stretches where I thought Spence was pretty bad. And yeah, I just wasn't super impressed with Spence this year. And it hurts doing that because he's a fellow Japanese boy, but yeah.
I gave him a B minus. I expected maybe a little bit more scoring from him, and he seemed to get lost in the playoffs, where at times when they weren't playing him. So I'm curious what they're thinking about him. I mean, maybe that's just a Hiller issue. Maybe, I don't know. I gave him a B minus. How about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I kind of waffled back and forth a little bit on BC grade. I guess I'll settle on a C. I we'll talk about it more when we talk about the head coach. I assume, but yeah, I mean, he played 79 games this year, so he was durable. I thought he'd have more of an offensive upside. I mean, look, it's only his second full season, so there's still room to grow. But I did expect a little bit more from him offensively. Plus 23 is certainly pretty good. He's right in there between an A and a B for me. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, a B and a C for me. But I'll settle on a C for Jordan.
So you'll go B minus then, or C plus?
I suppose so. I said I wasn't going to do that.
Plus and minus.
I know. I said I wasn't going to do that.
Don't break his groove.
What's that?
I said don't break his groove. He doesn't do pluses and minuses. I'm going to give him a B. I like Spence. Now, he scored 28 points, and the team leader scored in the 70s, right? I mean, so you got a defenseman that's contributing on the offensive side, I think. Like Eddie mentioned, plus 23. Suited up 79 times. For me, that's a good, solid, dependable defenseman that can give you a little bit of offensive production. That's a B.
Yeah, our fans 55% B, 45% C. So we're probably right in the game with our fans agreeing on Jordan Spence. Now, this is the one that I'm really curious about because he's a UFA and he's probably the number one thing on Ken Holland's mind right now. Vladislav Gavrikov. Kev, what do you think?
I give him B. Good solid B, plus 26. Played in all 82 games. And again, 30 points for a defenseman. That's not bad when your team leader's scoring in the 70s, man. I think that's a contribution. So I'm going to give him a solid B. I like that he answers the bell. I like he gives us a little offensive contribution. I like he protects the back end with the plus 26. So B.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I gave him an A. He moved from the left side to right side when Doughty went down. And between him and Mikey Anderson, they were one of the toughest defensive pairs in hockey. I mean, I think we were second in goals allowed. Second best in goals allowed.
Correct.
I gave Gavrikov an A, and I'm hoping without him asking for ridiculous money, we re-sign him. What do you think, Eddie?
Yeah, I definitely gave him an A as well. His versatility is very valuable. As you mentioned, what he did moving over from the left side to the right side, going from the second pairing to the top pairing when Drew Doughty went down. I thought he's in the running for the MVP of the team this year. Made himself a lot of money, whether it's with the Kings or somebody else. We'll see. I hope they re-sign him as well. But again, it can't be. I mean, look, this is his chance to cash in. This is his last shot at getting a big payday. So I understand he's going to try and get as much as he can, which he should. And I think he's earned it. We'll see, though. I hope they can bring him back. But I gave him absolutely an A.
And Dylan?
I'm giving an A plus to Gavrikov. If you looked at that, statistics and analytics, Gavrikov was arguably a top 5 defensive defensemen this year, and I don't really I like Mikey. I think this blue line would have just been absolute like toast without Gavrikov, and yeah, like I get it was a contract year. He was probably playing at his best, but I think Kings kind of have to re-sign him just with this current state of their blue line and dependability on a lot of the other guys defensively. I think you kind of have to bring him back, even though he might be making like somewhere to $8 to $9 million a year, which scares me. But it's kind of what you have to give him right now.
Okay. And Cody, what about our fans? 100% A, guys. Gavrikov got 100% A. First 100% we've had on A's. Can't say I can disagree with that at all. And we're going to go on to Brent Clark. And, I gave Brent a solid B. I mean, he led the defensive core in scoring. And I know, once they went to the 5 forward thing, we really didn't have any defensemen playing on the power play. And I'd like to see us go back with Clark in there this next year and give him a shot at being on the number 1 line. I know Drew probably doesn't want to give that up, but hopefully maybe this offseason, it seems like Drew was a step slower to me. So I gave Brent Clark a solid B. What about you, Dylan?
I gave Clark a B minus. If it was in that first stretch of the season where Clark was point per game or almost point per game, would have gave him an A. But as the season progressed, he kind of fell back down to earth. And I also think Hiller mismanaged him for a lot of the year, giving him. There were some games where he got like 10 minutes as a defenseman, which is insane. But yeah, I really do hope Clark can take the top power play unit next year because Drew. I'll talk about Drew later, but yeah, I think Clark should get a B minus.
What about you, Kev?
I gave him a solid B. His plus 13 was he was plus 13, played 78 games. He had 33 points. And I think I see some grit, and I want to see that grit continue to develop. And I gave him that, probably upgraded him from a C plus to a B because of the grit factor that I want to see in the team. So that's why he's a solid B.
And Eddie?
Yeah, I gave him a B. His first season in the NHL, I thought, was pretty solid. I thought he did everything the Kings asked him to do. I think that they told him, we want to see you work on your defensive game at the expense of what we know you can do offensively. We know you've got the talent, but we want you to prove to us you can be a defensively responsible player. And once you do that, I hope, then they'll allow him to be a little bit more creative and do some other things offensively, which I'm hoping to see for the next season. But I think he did what the coaching staff asked of him. He turned himself into a responsible defensive player, and now that hopefully he's proven that, they can give him more freedoms offensively for next season. So, but a B for him in his rookie year.
Okay. Cody? Well, they agree 55% a B, 27% A, and 19% C. So he was in the upper echelon of that. So I guess we're pretty close with what our fans think. On Drew Doughty. Eddie, give us your insight on Drew Doughty.
Well, obviously, missed a good portion of the season because of the injury in the preseason. I gave him a C. I love Drew. I love everything he's given to the organization. I love his passion for the game. There were a lot of things with him this year that didn't sit well with me. I thought he was way too selfish when it came to his wanting to play in the Four Nations. And I get that. I understand it. Look, he got a lifetime memory. He won a gold medal. I get it. But I thought he cared more about that than he cared about what he was going to do with the team. I did not like the number of minutes he continued to get, especially in the playoffs. I think we need to transition off of him, cut back on his minutes going forward. And I think it will be to a benefit to him and the team It just almost feels like he can do whatever he wants, and no one's going to tell him he can't, play as many minutes as he wants. And I don't agree with that. Like I said, I still love him. I still think he could be an effective player, but I think he's playing way too much. And I gave him a C.
Kev?
Well, I love Doughty. I mean, he's great, and he had the injury. He only got to play 30 games this year, and he's had 17 points in the 30 games. I thought he had a pretty good playoffs. He's an all-timer, and so I mean, he's +9 in 30 games, right? So he's going to be a +25, +30 if he plays the whole year, and I'm going to give him an A.
Okay. And Dylan?
I love Drew, and I get the injury in the preseason and everything, but if I have to be honest, I'm giving Drew a D+. I think there were so many moments throughout the year where Drew just got exposed defensively. There was rarely any time where I looked at Drew and said, "Oh, he's our best defenseman." Well, never, but got his spot taken off power play 1. In my opinion, he was really bad in the playoffs. I just don't see much with Drew right now, and the fact that Hiller was still giving him 25 minutes a night in the playoffs when he wasn't even our best defenseman, I just think says a lot. And I don't really want to call Drew selfish, but I do think he needs to have his minutes cut in the future, especially if he doesn't improve from this offseason. So, yeah.
Well, you guys all had some really great points on that, and I totally agree that I think Drew came back so he could play in the Four Nations, and he came back too soon. And I mean, I agree. He needs his playing time cut down. I mean, he'll be more effective if he's not tired and so forth. And I think, our management needs to come in and let him know that we need some of these other guys to step it up a little bit. So, I mean, I know on my original, I had a B- for him, but I'm going to agree with Eddie. I'm going to say a C for Drew Doughty. What did the fans say? They gave him 45% B, 18% A. I don't see that. 18% C, and then 18% D. So that was all over the board. But Drew is
Fan favorite.
He's the greatest defenseman the Kings have ever had. Especially with the longevity of being with the team. And I could see where fans like him more than giving him a better grade than he deserved. Now we're going to go to, I think, Phoenix Copley. I think he only played
one game
in there.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, just for him picking it up when somebody was down, I gave him a C. But there really isn't much to say other than that. Eddie, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, not much. I honestly don't even remember the game he played in. Did he come in relief?
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
He didn't get the win or loss, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing against him. I mean, one game in relief, hard to give a grade on that, I suppose. So, and I didn't, I followed him in the AHL this year, but I know he had to play a lot down the stretch because of the injury to Portillo. So I give him a C, sure.
Okay. Kev?
C.
Dylan?
C. I'm not. I think anything lower than a C just for that one game. Yeah, I don't know. You just say he's just an AHL goalie at the end of the day. So,
Yeah. Well, he was all over the map with our fans. You're laughing. I'm laughing at it too because there's some in the A, B, C, D, and F. But 45% was C, so we'll go with that. We're going to move on to Eric Portillo. Kev?
C.
Okay. Quick. Dylan?
Yeah, C. I mean, if it's just going off the game he played, I'll give him an A. But just it was only one game. I know his stats in the AHL this year weren't great either, but I'm hoping he can at least be the backup goalie for us next year.
Well, I'll go next, and I gave him an A for the one game in the NHL and a C- for the rest of the season because it was kind of all over the map, and he was hurt, and his back's hurt, and we're not even sure if he's going to be able to get back and play this next season. So, be praying for him to get back healthy again, because if we get the Eric Patillo from last season, he was pretty good in the AHL last season. What do you have to say about that, Eddie?
I mean, yeah, I guess I'd give him a B. I mean, the one game he played did great, beat the Ducks, so that that always wants to give you an A in my mind.
Me
But,
too.
yeah, I mean, I am concerned. I also had hopes that he could be our backup for the coming season, but the back injury has totally put that up in the air. I think Ken Holland has to play it safe and go out and find someone to bring in who's either going to be the veteran insurance guy in the AHL or the backup to Darcy Kemper. I think they'd like the upgrade from David Riddick. So, like I said, I really was hoping it could be Portillo, but I just don't think that they can rely on that. I think they'll probably have to wait and see if he is 100% healthy for the start of next season. Probably have him in the AHL to see how he does, and if he can handle that and looks good, maybe they would promote him at some point. But we'll see. I think he's a pretty big question mark right now, but he had the one great game against the Ducks. I'll give him a B.
Okay. And our fans overwhelmingly gave him a C. Second best was an A at 27%. It was 55% for C, 1D for 9%, and B 9% for Eric Patillo. Now we're going to go to our backup for the season, David Riddick. Kevin.
I give him a B. Solid. You're going to get something. You're going to get some goals stopped. And, I want to save my time for Kemper. He's just so fantastic. So I'll give him a B and move on.
Let's go to you, Dylan, because I saw on the notes what you obviously have an opinion on this. So let's hear it.
So, okay. So I love Big Save Dave, right? But I just mean this in the nicest way possible. I just hope he's not a King next season. I got to give Dave an F. I mean, with how good the Kings' defensive system is, he put up -11 goals saved above expected. He had almost a -2 goaltending WAR. I don't really know how you could defend that. I just think Riddick needs to go after the season, and I think Kings could do a lot better at the backup position than what Riddick was able to give us this year.
Well, I don't disagree that I think we need a new backup. I gave him a C- because he did kind of hold down the fort for a little bit while Darcy was hurt at the beginning of the season. I gave him a C-. I wouldn't be shocked if they can't find somebody else that they sign him again, maybe put him in the AHL if they can get somebody else. But I'm hoping for an upgrade for a backup. How about you, Eddie?
I thought he was an F on the road and he was an A at home. So you add it together and he gets a C. It's a C. There's not a lot out there if you look at kind of veteran goalies that are going to be available. Nobody that's going to kind of blow you away, but maybe in the Kings defensive system, somebody like, I don't know, a Dan Vladar or somebody like that would be better than what they were elsewhere. So I'm expecting them to try and upgrade the backup goalie position. I don't think Big Save Dave will be back next year. So yeah, we'll see.
So
I don't think the Kings were all that great on the road either, though.
They certainly were not.
Exactly.
It was like night and day. Hey, Cody, what do our fans say about that? Wow. Overwhelming 46.
Who gave him an A?
I think it was that David Riddick meme page on Instagram. No.
He got overwhelmingly a B.
Well, they didn't hear Dylan yet. They should have heard
somebody
Dylan
gave
first.
him an A. I don't know why. I wouldn't have given.
I know he gave him the F.
That was Dylan.
I might have gave him a D on there, but I probably changed it to F. I forgot.
That's just funny. Well, I know, Kevin, you were mostly excited to talk about our next guy, so I'll let you go first. Darcy Kemper.
Well, you're talking about the Vezina winner. in my opinion. You know, the best goaltender in the league. The peripherals will show you that. The goals allowed, second best in the league, behind Winnipeg, who has a pretty darn good goalie too. Previous Vezina winner. To me, this is your number one star in your team, no question about it. MVP of the team, most valuable. Stand on his head to make the save. Pull you out when you let the uneven break going. He's going to pull you out of the fire, and I think he proved that he deserves the Vezina this year. So Darcy Kemper, number one star, my guy, love him.
Okay, I'll go
A
next.
plus. He's my only A plus. It's the only one.
So when the trade happened, I thought, okay, we got Kemper back for Dubois, because Dubois just seemed to have a cancer with the Kings. And what was exciting about that trade, I mean, I guess if you're a Capital fan, is that actually Dubois performed pretty well for the Capitals, but I did not expect Darcy Kemper to perform like he did this year. I gave him an A plus. I mean, he did have some games like any other player will that weren't great, but on the majority of the games and at times he was incredible. I gave him an A plus. How about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I definitely think he gets an A, better than I expected. I thought he would be good. I thought he'd have a bounce back year from his last year in Washington, but I didn't expect him to be this good. I thought he would be kind of another Cam Talbot type of guy, make the saves he's supposed to make, keep you in every game, give you a chance. But there were times that they won games because of Darcy Kemper, and he made a lot of game-changing type of saves. So I didn't really expect a lot of that, and I thought he did well enough in the playoffs as well. I know the numbers obviously were not as good in the postseason as the regular season, but I thought he gave the Kings more than a chance to win night in and night out in the playoffs, and I thought his teammates let him down. So I'm not expecting to be as good next season, frankly, because he was as good. I never thought he'd be a Vezina finalist this year. Never thought that. So I think he could take a little bit of a step back next year, but not too much. I think he'll still be a very, very solid goalie. But for this season, there's no doubt it's an A.
And Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you could look at his stats and not give him an A plus. I mean, based off expectations, what he's been able to give us. I think the only knock you could really give him is his playoff numbers, but even then, I think putting up a 900 save percentage against this Oilers team in the playoffs is just impossible for any goalie. And yeah, I mean, not much to say. He was our best player by far, in my opinion, this season. And yeah, Vezina finalist too. So yeah,
great. Another 100% A. There wasn't one vote from our fans where Darcy Kemper didn't get an A, which is awesome. And unfortunately, I think there was a power outage at Kevin's place, so we've lost Kevin for I don't know how long. Might be for the rest. So we're going to go to the coaching staff now. We're going to start off with assistant coach DJ Smith. Dylan, you want to start us on that one?
Yeah, I mean, DJ Smith did his job. I give him a B. I don't think anybody on the coaching staff is gonna get an A for me. Yeah, definitely not gonna get an A for me. But yeah, I mean, as assistant coach, I think I really have no complaints with DJ Smith. I will talk more about Hiller later, obviously, but yeah, I'll give it a B.
Okay, I agreed with your B. He's not the coach I had a problem with. I thought he did his job. How about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I give him a B as well. He obviously working with the defense, and the defense was one of the best in the NHL. And he's up for the head coaching job apparently in Pittsburgh, so we may have to replace him after this season. We'll see. But yeah, thought he did a solid job as Jim Hiller's right-hand guy. I gave him a B.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry. We got 18% A, 36% for both B and C, and 9% D. So a little all over the map for DJ. Let's talk about Newell Brown. I'll go first. He was awful with the power play for the Ducks. I still haven't figured out why we signed him to start with. Our power play sucked most of the season. The only thing that saved it was Andrei Kuzmenko came in, and I think they actually, in that little bit of time he played, doubled what they scored for the rest of the season in power play goals. I think it was maybe 2 more than they had before he joined the team. I gave Newell Brown an F. Eddie?
I gave him a D. I mean, if you want to look at his work with the forwards, I guess that was adequate. I don't know the inner workings as far as whose idea was it to go to the 5 forwards setup, right? Was that his idea? Was that Jim Hiller's idea? That obviously worked.
Yes.
And we heard a lot about the Kings need that right-hand shot on the power play. And once they got that guy, the power play was good. I would like to have known how that's going to, well, I guess we'll see perhaps how that's going to be for a full season. But the power play was not good during the regular season. He's the guy who's responsible for the power play. So you got to give him a below C grade, I would think, just because of that alone. So I gave him a D.
Okay. And Dylan?
Yeah. I'll give Newell Brown a C. Obviously the power play, one of the worst in the league this year. I think the only thing saving him from being an F is the fact that the Kings power play was really good in the first round. And Kings were at what? A 40% power play in the first round. I mean, yeah, that's really his only saving grace from being an F. So, yeah.
Overwhelming C. We had 18% A. Who are these people? No. 27% B and 9% F. Your guys' is D. There was 0 besides you guys. At least I had some with an F. I just find that funny. Now assistant coach Derek Johnson. How about you?
I don't know much about him, to be honest with you.
Me either.
Yeah.
A lot of NHL teams do not have 3 assistants on the bench. The Kings are unique in that regard. So if DJ Smith leaves, I wonder if he gets, promoted to taking on a bigger responsibility, or if they want to bring in someone else on the outside. I don't know, but I don't know too much about him, to be honest with you. So it's hard to give him a grade. I guess I'll just give him a C because I don't really know exactly what his responsibilities are, but yeah.
Okay, we're on Coach Derek Johnson, Kevin. I'm glad your power got back on. And Coach Derek Johnson, what grade do you give him?
C.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
it.
Dylan?
He's doing what coach tells him. So you talk about Hiller, you got a different situation. You talk about Blakey, you got a different situation. But assistant coaches, successful season, C, fine.
Okay. Dylan?
Yeah. B. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I know what he does. Yeah, like what Eddie said, I really don't know like his responsibilities for the team, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got 55% C, 27% B, 18% A. Okay. Interesting. Let's go with assistant coach and goalie coach, Mike Buckley. I'll go first.
Did Kemper get an A from everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
100% from our fans too.
Okay. Just asking. I missed that part. I wanted to hear what Dylan and Eddie said.
Well, I'm glad you come back. I'll start with Mike Buckley. I gave him a B plus. That could probably be an A. I thought, what he did to resurrect or help resurrect Kemper, and I heard him. I think was it on your podcast, Eddie, or was I listening to maybe all the King's Men? I know I heard it on a podcast just recently where, he gave all the credit to Kemper, but I mean, I think, sometimes a coach helps you, gives just that little tweak that brings you back. He just said he had lost his way from what he used to do, because he gave all the information for his previous seasons, and that last season with Washington was just awful compared to all the rest of them. And so I'm gonna change my grade from B+ to A for him. Dylan, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was doing something right with Kemper, right, to help rejuvenate his career. I would give him a B, or maybe yeah, I'll give him a B+. I think just he had to play at least some part in helping Darcy Kemper's career out. And as for Riddick, I just think Riddick's beyond saving. So yeah, I'll give him a B+.
How about you, Kev?
C+.
Oh, we're just straight with the
That's it.
grade right now. Okay.
No, I got more material for the other guys,
Okay, Eddie. Okay. Go ahead. Eddie.
Yeah, I initially gave him an A, but I guess thinking about it a little bit more, considering he's probably responsible for the entire organization goaltending. So you would put that, you would also take into account Eric Portillo and Phoenix Copley as well. So I give him a B. Obviously, look, he was the Four Nations goalie coach for Team USA as well. So he's really highly respected throughout the NHL. I've heard a lot of great things from other people and organizations about him. And he's a guy that if he were to become available, I think would get snapped up by a lot of other teams very quickly. So very well respected. I think overall does a very, very good job with the goaltenders. I would give him a B.
Okay, so we had A 36%, C 36%, and B 27%. Pretty much in the range we had. And now we're going to go to head coach Jim Hiller. Do I want to start with you, Kevin, or are you Eddie? Let's go with Eddie.
Well, kind of like I talked about with David Riddick, who got an F on the road and an A at home. I give Hiller an F in the playoffs, and I might give him an A for the regular season. I mean, considering it was his first full season as a head coach, and the Kings tied the franchise record for wins and points in a season, that's pretty spectacular. But obviously, he couldn't get out of his own way in the playoffs. Didn't trust a lot of his players in the playoffs that he needed to. The coach's challenge on the goalie interference, I thought, was an awful decision. Ultimately, the way they played in the third periods in games 3 and 4 with the lead, I put on him. So I would have fired him in the offseason. I know that might sound brutal considering what I just said about his regular season, but if the Kings are where some people think they are, and if we're going to be told by the organization that this is a team that's not in it to win one round and not is in it to beat one team, they're in it to win the Stanley Cup. I don't know how you feel confident that he's the best head coach available to get the Kings where they claim they want to go. And I don't have any. I like Jim Hiller. I thought he did a great job in the regular season, and all things considered, the regular season was amazing. But if this is about the playoffs, this is about progress. I thought he completely mishandled so many things in the postseason that it was probably a fireable offense. And I think there are better coaches out there that could make the Kings better for next season. So overall, I will give him a C.
Okay. Kevin?
I'm going to give him a B. I think it's a solid B. You get over 100 points. You finish second. You go into the playoffs. Obviously, we laid an egg after we're up 2-0. We're up 2 goals the third game in Edmonton, and then we just completely came apart. And that was disappointing, but it is his first full season. I thought he really led us into a very good position. I thought we should have done better in that Oiler series that was so disappointing and so disheartening to be up 2-0 and 2 goals in the second period and then have it go south. That's why I don't give him an A. But I think you look at the production. I'm a numbers guy. I like the production. As Gary mentioned earlier, a second least goals against in the league, only behind Winnipeg. So I think you have to give him that one more year, Eddie. I think you've got to give him that one more chance. I think now that we've got some change in philosophy, hopefully, that he's going to get a chance to make more of his stamp, and maybe we can get some better offensive production, balance it out a little bit more. But I'm going to give him a solid B. I think he managed everything well. He got us to the promised land, and then we laid an egg. So that's why he's not an A. But to me, he's a B.
How about
I think
you,
I would
Dylan?
feel I think I would feel better about giving him another chance and saying he'll learn from his mistakes if he had been a little bit more open about, hey, I made mistakes. I'm going to learn from it going forward and we'll be better for it. But he never really said that. He almost came off as, to me, as a guy saying, I made the decisions in the moment and I stand by it, and that's that. So I didn't care for a lot of the things he said.
Because he doesn't want to throw anyone
After the
under
season,
bus. That's what
I'm
you
sorry?
say when you don't want to throw. That's what you say when you want to take responsibility. You didn't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah, but I didn't hear him take responsibility for his mistakes. I didn't hear that.
Okay, fair point.
What do you have to say about that, Dylan?
I'll give.
This is the roughest. I think the roughest one.
Because Kings and controversial coaches go hand in hand right now. I'll give Jim a B minus. I really gave him a B. I'll give him a B minus. I think I don't see how you cannot give him an A in the regular season. I mean, the Kings bought into his system. He got the best out of guys like Joel Edmondson, Gavrikov. Because in my opinion, both of them, that was their best season yet. And same for Warren Fogel. In the spur of the moment, like in the playoffs, like when we got eliminated, I was like, fire Hiller, and I still do think Hiller should have moved on from Hiller, but depending on how these finals go, like if the Oilers stomp the Panthers, and I mean you could say the Kings gave the Oilers their best challenge in the playoffs, right? And I think there is something to be had for Hiller, even though he completely choked the series away. Yeah, I think at this point I'm fine with running it back with Hiller for another season. I just don't think he's the best coach that this team can have, and for that, I'll give him a B minus because I do think he did, for the most part, he did more good than bad.
Okay. Wow. I agree with a lot of what all you guys said. I thought his regular season, I would agree. I'd give him an A, but you don't challenge a play with the score tied that if it costs you giving up a power play, you'd already given up a 2-goal lead, and now you give them a chance to score, and they do. And I mean, he made some poor decisions, and I could see, while people would want maybe a change from Hiller. Holland has said in his press conference that he's talked with him. He's his coach for now. But I also could see that if we don't get off to a great start, that there could be a change coming pretty quick. So, and I just wanted to throw in, because I didn't catch it, but Cody, I can't say the one word, but Cody made a comment. Who gave Newell Brown an A with question marks after it? Because if you heard any of our podcasts from last year, when he was assistant coach for the Ducks, he was the most hated Duck Cody had, and then somehow we sign him. I don't understand that.
You got to stop cursing on the podcast, bro.
Well, it didn't get said.
The D word shouldn't be said here.
It wasn't a D word.
This is King's talk. I want to hear about those quacky things, man.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let's go to head coach. 45 or 46% B, 28% A, 28% C. So we're
okay.
probably
So everybody gave Hiller in the regular season, be specific, everybody gave him an A for the regular season. Did I hear right? Did I get that wrong?
Yeah,
Correct?
That's
I
right.
did.
Yeah.
And you don't want him back, Eddie? A in the regular season, and you don't want him back.
Well, are we just in this for the regular season? Because if we're just in this for the regular season, then sure, he's one of the best coaches in the NHL. But I thought we were in this, according to Luke Robitaille, we're in this to win Stanley Cups. So if we're in this to win Stanley Cups, there are other coaches out there better than him that could get us to that point. In my opinion,
there is a lot of controversy on the Kings keeping Hiller. I don't.
Well,
we'll see. I guess we're going to see.
I
mean, obviously, Robitaille and Holland are willing to give him a second chance. Maybe he did learn something from the mistakes he made in the playoffs. We will see. But I do agree there were coaches out there we could have hired that were more seasoned and Stanley Cup worthy coaches that we could have probably hired, but we didn't do it. So, but
he didn't take the ice in the playoffs, though. To be fair, I mean, he did what you asked him to do. He gets you 100 points, gets you in the playoffs, gets you against Edmonton. He's got you the 2-0 lead with the 2, and then the team implodes. And that's why he's a B for me. He's not an A. But as far as I just think, and that's just me personally, and I don't know as much as Eddie for sure, or Dylan, or you. But I'm a numbers and I'm a loyalty guy, and I think a guy gets you 100 points, gets you in the playoffs. You give Edmonton, I forget who said it, the best challenge they've had so far. I think a change in philosophy at the top, maybe a different system, maybe you can see a different result, and maybe you won't, and then next year you'll say, "Yeah, see, I told you." But
the great thing about America is we can speak our mind, and everybody has an opinion. It doesn't mean we have to all agree with somebody else's opinion, but I totally understand your point, Kevin. But let's go to our last person that we're supposed to grade, and that's our general manager, Rob Blake. How about we start with you, Dylan?
So like I said, in the spur of the moment when Kings got eliminated, I was saying Blake should be outed. But when you really think about how he did this season, I mean, I think I got to give him a B. I mean, he brought in Fogel, traded for Kemper, what's it called? The Edmondson signing worked out great. I mean, he really didn't make any bad signings that I could really think of off the top of my head. But I think it just comes down to more as a organizational issue, and I just think the team needs a new direction to take, and I don't think Blake is the one. But I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world that he's still with the team. So yeah, I'll give him a B.
Okay. I put originally a B, but I think every one of his moves this year worked. Yeah. So we didn't have success in the playoffs. I can't say I blame him. He gave us some key opponents, and when he did all these moves, he said, "This is what our team needs." And look how well we played. We tied the record of most points in a season of any Kings team. I'm going to give I would give Rob Blake an A.
Oh, and can I say something, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just had a brain fart and I forgot it's Ken Holland now. I just had a complete brain fart right there. So yeah.
It's okay.
I completely forgot about that.
Those happen. Kev?
I thought Blake did a very good job in the acquisitions and building the team, but I don't think the team that he built is the one that's going to beat Edmonton, and that's what really ticks me off. I hate losing to them 4 years in a row. I really like being an elite defensive team, but we've got holes. We got holes in the boat. We gotta fix. And who do we go and get? The guy that just left Edmonton, right? Hall of Famer. We love Holland, but maybe we got to consort with the enemy before we can get over them. But I want them next year. I want Edmonton next year. I want to take them out. I want them to win the Stanley Cup championship, and then I want to go up there and I want to eliminate them in Edmonton under the new with our new GM Holland coming in and starting to give us some better offensive firepower, beefing up the center ice position, getting a little bit more scoring, and tweaking it so we can still stay in the elite side of the of the defensive side, but we just need to be able to overcome those 2 and 3 goal deficits. Kemper's great, love him. A lot of great Kopitar, a lot of great material here. Obviously, I like Doughty better than a lot of you guys do. It's from past, I guess, that I just think maybe he was a little hurt. Maybe I give him a little benefit of the doubt. But I would say Blake would be a B because he instituted what he wanted. And it's interesting that Robitaille brought in Blake. And I saw both of those guys as rookies when they first broke in. And Blake was one of the best defensemen we've ever had. And I think Larry Robinson's up there too, but that's another story. So I'm going to give Blake a B. And I'm going to give Hiller another year to try to do another system. And I want Holland to come in and show us how to beat those lovely Oilers from Edmonton.
Okay, Eddie, you want to give your opinion on Rob?
Yeah, I got to give Rob Blake an A for this year. I thought all of his moves worked out. He brought in 4 players from outside the organization. They all fit in very well. I thought they all either exceeded the expectations or met or exceeded. I think Janot was probably about what we wanted. I thought Warren Fogel was better than we thought. I thought Joel Edmondson was better than we thought. I thought Darcy Kemper was better than we thought. So he hit on all 4 of those moves in the offseason. And his one move at the trade deadline, which I didn't think was much of a move, was a home run in Andrei Kuzmenko. So I guess you could argue maybe he should have gotten, I don't even know how invested he was in trying to get Mikko Rantanen, but he didn't want to come here regardless. But apparently he even inquired about that. So I don't know what else he could have done better than what he did this year, which is obviously very ironic that he gets an A and yet he's out the door, which I don't disagree with. He his tenure run its course, 5 postseason appearances, 0 advancements out of the first round. Not saying it's all on him, but in the end, it just felt like it was time for a change. He even knew it. I think the explanation of that it was a mutual parting, I think, is actually true. I think a lot of times teams will say that because they don't want to say we fired the guy. It's a nicer way of saying we mutually agreed. Very, very few times is that really the truth. But I think in this case, it was the truth. I think Rob Blake decided I've had my time. I've done my, I've had enough time to get this team where it needs to go, and it hasn't gotten there. So it's time to give somebody else a chance. I think he really felt that way. And I think that he decided it was time for him as well. So I gave him an A this year, which is ironic, but I also thought it was the right move for him to step away.
I totally agree with everything you just said, Eddie. And I do believe Rob did mutually, because I had heard him earlier in the season. Somebody asked him whether he was going to re-sign. He goes, well, that's something that for later in the season. He goes, he just didn't sound confident that he wanted to come back. I mean, it's a very stressful job to do that. I can't imagine trying to do all the things that a general manager would do. So anyways, Cody, what do our fans say about Rob Blake? Well, they 46% B, 40% or 36% C, 10% A, 10% F. I do not get the C or the F on that one. I thought he did a great job.
What did you give?
Well, Kevin, you had a question?
What did Dylan give? Grade did Dylan give?
I gave him a B.
B.
A what?
I gave him a B.
A B?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we're going to take Hiller and downgrade him for the playoff flop, but we're not going to hold Blakey accountable. That's what I'm hearing? So Blakey gets away with an A because he made good moves, but he built the team. And he built the team in this infrastructure. And yeah, maybe we both downgraded Hiller because of the performance to the B. But to me, I don't think you can give Blakey an A if he's built this team, and this team, you can't put it all on Hiller's shoulders. And I just think, Blakey's got to be a B. That's just my opinion. That's what we're here for.
So here's our centers average, C+, wingers average, B, defensive average, C, goalie average, C+. That came from Cody, I guess. That wasn't very well. I guess when you consider all the good with all the bad, they're probably had them as an average team. I think that maybe we're a little low on that. I think they were an above average team myself, but
you can't take Kemper and then average in those three, the other three goalies and say that that's a fair rating. I think, you got to look at Kemper as the goaltender, as the fantastic year he had. And goaltending, I think.
Yeah, we can all agree, Kevin, that, Kemper had a great season. Those are just the averages from the players, and then he probably divided it out and it came up with those, but it doesn't mean that's what the team is. Anyways, I thank you all for joining me today with player grades. Eddie, would you want to tell everybody how they can stay in contact and see you and listen to you on your podcast, please?
Sure. The podcast is Locked On LA Kings, and please include the LA part, or else you'll get a basketball team in Sacramento, which you don't want to do. But it's a year-round podcast. It's at least 5 days a week, all year round. So we're covering the team during the season, off season. Got the NHL draft coming up pretty soon. We'll be talking about that. Free agency, obviously, coming up, seeing what the Kings do. And, doing some special features as well. We have fan feedback shows every week. We have special interviews. So if you're looking for Kings coverage 5 days a week, check out Locked On LA Kings. Also, I have an NHL podcast that I do once a week, kind of a weekly wrap up called the Puck Podcast, which we've been doing for 18, 19 years. And then there's a show that we're doing mostly during the season in the NHL that wraps up the night in the NHL as far as like talking about the games that were played. And that's called the Locked On NHL Game Night. So if anybody wants to check any of those out, much appreciated.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't listened to Eddie's podcast, full of information, he has guests on. It's a great show. I love listening to it. And Eddie, this is what, your third year?
I think year? just wrapped up the third year. Yeah.
So he'll be going into his fourth year, and he does a fantastic job. Hey, Dylan, you want to talk to us about the LA Kings channel?
Yeah. I mean, if you have Instagram, it's right here if you want to follow. I haven't posted in a while since the Kings got eliminated, but I'm looking to post more during the off season. It's mostly just memes, but I'll post some. I'll make some other posts outside of that here and there, and yeah. I mean, I hope people think it's funny. I don't. I hope you do, but I don't know. But yeah.
What's the name of it, or how do we find it?
Oh, it's right here. It's just type that in right there.
LA Kings channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on Instagram, Eddie.
Got it.
And Kevin's been a friend for a lot of years. We did office together with a Farmers Insurance when we were both agents there. Played softball together. And you're still doing insurance, aren't you, Kevin?
I am, but I'm an old school Kings guy. Remember that. And this, my screen behind me is the Triple Crown line, the most amazing thing I've ever seen on ice. When 1980, going to the Fabulous Forum when general admission seats were $7 and you could get a 50% discount if you had a student ID, which I did. So I get in for $3.50 general admission and come up from the rafters and go down. We'd see the Triple Crown line, see Marcel Dion bringing it up past the red line, dumping it into the corner. Dave Taylor scrambling into the corner, digging it out while Charlie Simmer stands in front with a 6'3" hulking frame standing in front of the net, and he bangs it home when Taylor puts it off the boards to him. So they were the first line mates in 1980 that all had 100 points. That's why they're the Triple Crown line. I'm a proud Kings fan for life, and I like taking Eddie on because he knows more than me. And, I like disagreeing. But, you know, it was a lot of fun. I don't have anywhere to go but to promote you guys. So,
Well, I appreciate that.
and you know, if you have me back, I'll argue with whoever you put on, including Eddie.
Well, not to forget, Kings, that I know you say it at the end of your podcast, Go Kings Co. But I know Cody's going to come on, and hey, Cody's the quacked part of Royally Quacked. He's been in the background taking care of us. You want to take us out, Cody?
Yeah, again, thank you everyone for coming on. We really appreciate it. You guys, it was funny. And Eddie, your comments on talking crap on the Ducks, I'll never forget that. And I'll have your better half next week. So
No, good luck with that.
hey, I'm looking forward to it.
By the way, it's not my wife he's talking about. He's
yes,
my podcast wife, I guess.
Actually, a little spoiler. It's actually the better half of your Puck podcast and the better half of the Locked On SoCal hockey teams too.
It's up for debate, but okay.
No,
I totally disagree with that, Cody.
Whatever.
I think me and Eddie are the better halves of the of the podcast things. So
I don't know. I think me and Kyle can give you guys a run for your money. But no, again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Everyone, thank you for putting in your grades. I still don't know who gave two people who gave Neil Brown an A. I don't understand that. Because I would have given him an F, and that was me as a Ducks fan. I gave him an F last year as a Ducks assistant coach. But everyone, you can follow Royally Quacked on social media, at Royally Quacked on everything. Please hit the downloads on all the audio podcasts and subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitch, and you can watch this live and everything and chime in and give some comments. We did have some comments on Instagram. Since I was off stage, I couldn't really tell you guys, but Laura Ann 21, she seems like she's a diehard Kings fan. She was saying that she loves Drew. I feel Drew did very well considering his injury this year, and I think he will get better. I'm glad he did Four Nations. They did overplay him, which is what the staff said. So, like I said, she was commenting on a lot of these. So, she thought Blake did great as well. I don't like the ratings, but I respect everyone's opinions for the fans. And she was glad that she was able to join us on Instagram Live. So I just wanted to give her a quick shout out. Thank you, Laura Ann, for hopping on Instagram Live. Otherwise, if I was on, I probably would have said all the stuff she was saying. And by the way, that she was at Andre Lee's first goal this last season. That fantastic goal he had, which that was a great goal he did.
that was pretty.
I think I'm the one that actually sent it to you first, Dad. If I'm right.
I think I was watching it.
Oh, okay, then sure. I can't remember, but other than that, please follow us on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, and like I said, go follow LA Kings channel on Instagram, and go give follow Eddie Garcia on Locked On LA Kings and the Puck Podcast. I've been listening to the Puck Podcast, and I've been loving that. It's helps my drive for work a lot listening to you guys. So
thank you.
On that, if you guys have anything else to say, I'm not going to say my chant because it's your podcast. So
Yeah,
on this one, so
it's Go Kings Go.
yeah,
We can all agree on that,
yeah. Go Kings, go. I
except
guess.
for Cody.
Yeah. Oh God. All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you guys next week. And we're gonna do Ducks player grades. So we'll see you guys next week.